freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 473 of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. We are brought to you by azfirearmsauctions.com, where you set the price on guns, ammo, and accessories. I am one of your hosts, Cheryl Todd.
And I'm the other guy, Dan Todd. Our theme today is like out of a movie, America's Mighty Warriors.
Yes.
And our guest is U.S. Representative Eli Crane. Eli is a former Navy SEAL who currently serves in the U.S. Representatives for Arizona's 2nd Congressional District.
While in the Navy, Eli served 13 years and completed 5 wartime deployments with SEAL Team 3. Elected to Congress in 2022, Representative Crane focuses on border security, fiscal responsibility, and reforming Washington. Thank God somebody needs to, and you're the right man for it. Representative Crane is also a member of the House Freedom Caucus and serves on key committees. First of all, thank you so much for your continued service to our nation, Representative Crane.
Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here. You know, I read that and I think, you know, all that you went through to become a SEAL and then to, you know, serve out your time with all those deployments. And I'm like, now you are deployed to Washington and you're fighting this war of ideas, this war of values, this war of, you know, constitutional issues. What an amazing journey your life has taken. Tell us about your time in Washington.
Yeah, no, it is a blessing to be here. I never wanted to be a congressman, never wanted to live in DC the majority of the year, but this is what God had for me. And so it's an honor to be here. I can be honest, it's a very discouraging place to work. You know, it takes forever to get anything done, and it feels like kind of like you're living in a loony bin, you know. A lot of my colleagues up here don't seem to really care about how the poor decisions we make are consistently affecting the American people. And it's one of the reasons I think God called me here. And so I'm just going to keep doing what I can and, taking it day by day. But it is an honor to, represent the American people out there that often feel forgotten.
Man, you're so right. We do very often. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I was looking at all the amazing things you do and what you're doing. And one of the things that brought up to me is the border security. How's your other colleagues working with you on that?
Well, it is one thing that the majority of my colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle are pretty unified on. There are some outliers, but this is one message that I think, even the most tone-deaf representatives can't ignore any longer. And when I look at President Trump's first campaign and his second, to me, border security is the biggest through line. It's the biggest theme. And it's gotten so bad that we've even seen, Democrats in charge of blue states starting to realize the insanity of which, they've been a champion for a very long time, start to destroy their own cities. Like when you have Mayor Adams in New York City starting to go down to the border and tell his constituency that, this is going to ruin New York City. You know that this isn't a partisan thing. It's been made a partisan thing by politicians and by elitists who really don't care much about the plight or the life experience of Americans. But, People that come here and kill and rape Americans, they don't care if you're a Democrat, they don't care if you're a Republican. Fentanyl doesn't care if you're a Republican, independent, or Democrat. It's killing close to 100,000 Americans every single year.
Mm.
And I'll be honest, one of the things that concerns me the most as a warfighter is how many individuals around the country that would see the United States as a great Satan and would love to destroy us. And because we've opened our border wide open, many of those people are here,
Hmm.
right here in the United States, plotting to wreak as much havoc as they can, kill as many people as they can. And again, they don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. And that's why I don't think this should be partisan. I think, even a lot of Democrats and people that probably didn't vote for President Trump the first cycle realized how out of control and
Yeah.
insane these policies were. And that's why I think you saw one of the greatest historical political comebacks in history,
Hmm.
President Trump getting reelected. As you guys can see, he is moving it with lightning speed. It's kind of like political shock and awe, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
Oh,
No doubt. And on the point of the borders, there are people out there that are just losing their minds and tearing their hair out because Trump is threatening tariffs against our neighbors to the north, Canada, and our neighbors to the south, Mexico. And, within, I think, 24 to 48 hours, he was able to parlay these threats of tariffs to get cooperation on the borders, and I think that that's just a win for everybody. And I don't know if the other side of the debate can concede that, oh, wow, that actually kind of worked, that we now have buy-in from the Mexican president and Trudeau up in Canada to say, yeah, we're going to help on our side of those borders to see if we can stem the flow of the fentanyl, stem the flow of the human trafficking and all of the illegal crossings. I just, to me, it feels like, you have to be purposely trying to misunderstand how things are unfolding if you're against the results that we're seeing. What do you think about that?
Well, I think a couple things. I do think there's still a hefty dose of Trump derangement syndrome out there. I think it's a real thing. But you're right. I mean, you are so right. You almost have to be willfully blind not to understand what's going on. And it's one of the reasons I've been a longtime supporter of the president, because he is able to think outside the box. He is courageous, and we can point to so many things that just show, his courage and how most people would have given up long ago if they faced the opposition that he did. But he's also a businessman. He also
Yes.
understands leverage, and many of even the smartest folks up here who are constitutional scholars and whatnot, they've never had a real job where they were in charge of a major organization and they had to deal with a labor union, or they had to deal with contractors, or they had to deal with bureaucrats constantly trying to stop them from doing their job. And that's one of the things I love about President Trump. He operates from a position of strength, and
Yes.
when you're in charge of the United States of America, I think that's how you should operate. And for
Mhm.
far too long, we've had leaders who go around the world and apologize to people for the United States and American exceptionalism. And Trump doesn't do that at all. He operates from a position of strength, and he goes, just like you're seeing in these tariff negotiations, he uses them as leverage. And
Mhm.
he's tired of watching this country being taken advantage of, our workforce being taken advantage of, and us getting the raw end of every single deal because
Yeah.
we feel sorry about our success. And I think it's just completely backwards. And I think the people that suffer the most from it, are the middle and lower class Americans.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. One of the words you used in there is, the elitist attitude of so many people who you share office space with across the mall there in our nation's capital. And I appreciate that you are, so open and so available. As a matter of fact, I was visiting DC one time with my Women for Gun Rights group, and I turned a corner and literally, I think I ran smack into you and your beautiful wife, Jennifer, in a hallway. And I felt like that was just a testament to, that openness that you have to meet with your constituents, to really serve their needs as a public servant rather than sitting in your lofty office. There are some people you can't get a meeting with, even any of their staff. And you exemplify the openness that I think we need in our elected officials. And to that point, you're going to be back in your home state of Arizona very soon. We're sitting in the studio on Tuesday, February 4th of 2025. This event that's coming up is going to be March 22nd of 2025 at Scottsdale Gun Club. It is called America's Mighty Warriors. And I think it's an amazing event to help support families of warriors. But can you touch on why this is an important event that brings you back to Arizona to not just appear at, but to actually be the MC of?
Yeah, no, this is a great event. It's a great organization. I've been going to this event for many years, even before I was a representative. One of the reasons is because this event is all about honoring Marc Lee, who was a teammate of mine at SEAL Team 3. He was the first SEAL killed in Iraq, and it's to honor his legacy. And this organization does some amazing work. I've personally seen it in my own life with myself and other individuals, and that's why I'm always been supportive of it. Marc Lee's mom, Debbie Lee, we call her Mama Lee in the SEAL teams, and she's kind of she's kind of a motherly figure to many of us, and she's definitely a standard bearer for many Gold Star families. She does so much to help other Gold Star families. And, she's gone overseas. She's visited with our troops. And, I know some amazing Gold Star family members, but she works tirelessly to make sure that, our veterans are taken care of, and those that come out of, combat and multiple wars get what we need to live just purpose-filled lives. And so I'm grateful to Debbie, and I'm grateful to guys like Marc that gave more than I ever did, and gave the ultimate sacrifice. And I actually never got to meet Marc. I got to go to his first funeral service in Iraq. I was stationed about 30 miles down the road when Marc was killed.
Mm.
And I remember going to his funeral. And as I got to learn more about Marc over the years, I carried an automatic weapon. It was a Mark 48 machine gun, and it weighed about 25 pounds, I believe, without ammunition. And then you would carry probably an extra 50 pounds of just ammunition on you. And it was a very heavy load. And it's one of the reasons I have back problems today. But, when I found out that Marc carried his Mark 48 machine gun without a sling, I was like, that told me a lot about how tough and how strong this guy was. And, I'm just grateful to come from a community, that was made up of individuals like Marc that put so much of their personal life on hold to go serve at the highest level. And I do know that it's important that their legacies are carried on, and we don't forget about them.
Well, I am surprised this is the 10th anniversary of this event, and I'm just hearing about it this year for the first time. I have a great friend named Stephen Page, who I think is a mutual friend, and he reached out to me and was telling me about it, and he was excited that you were emceeing, and he's like, "You've got to talk about it on Gun Freedom Radio." So here we are. I love that kind of networking that brings people together. But it's you can go to americasmightywarriors.org and find the ticket link from there. But we're also going to have our newly elected sheriff, Maricopa County, Jerry Sheridan, Our former sheriff of Pinal County, Marc Lamb, everybody loves Marc Lamb, and Mark Osgeist, he's a Benghazi warrior. It's going to be an amazing event, an exciting event, and I am just thrilled to be able to talk about it, help people reach out and go. And then I know Dan and I are going to support it financially. We're either going to sponsor or donate something to raffle,
I know
but
what we're doing. You want me to say it right now?
yeah, go ahead.
We're going to give a Colt 6920 for you guys to raffle.
Wow.
Brand new in the box. So,
That is
Very
awesome.
fun.
all right. So that's what you get.
Very
So,
fun.
we want to help. This is very important.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you, Dan. That's awesome.
I'm learning as you are, so I think that's amazing. All right, so moving on from there, and everybody needs to show up, support it somehow, americasmightywarriors.org. All right, we have just had this huge election, and it feels like we are in a time of a major culture shift across not just Arizona, but the entire nation. I'm even seeing it around the world, right? Just like we were talking about how the tariffs are impacting our borders. From your perspective, what do you think? It feels like there's a lot of opportunities, but there's challenges too. What do you feel like the new challenges and opportunities might be for us as a nation?
Well, I think this is, it's completely ours to lose.
Thank
We
you.
control the presidency, the House, the Senate. There's no reason that we can't deliver, for the American people. There's still a lot of the same games, a lot of the same shenanigans going on in Washington, D.C. A lot of the same people up here. And so it is going to be challenging. And there are going to be plenty of people, I think, that try and thwart the president's agenda. And I already see this happening. There are also a lot of people that are going to try and get in the president's ear and steer him astray. I think, I'm very impressed with how quickly the president has moved on many of his executive orders. I'm very impressed with many of the staff positions and appointments that he has made. And, one of the big appointments that I saw him make yesterday, he, appointed Joe Kent over one of the counter-terrorist organizations. Joe ran for Congress. I think it was up in Washington. And he was a special forces guy. If you want to go learn more about Joe, you can watch his Sean Ryan episode, which was pretty amazing. And Sean Parnell, many of your viewers probably know who Sean was. Sean was a very decorated Army officer and soldier. I'm trying to think of, I think he's at the State Department or something like that. But, a lot of the positions, even, lower than the secretary or the director of these agencies, have really impressed me with, Trump and who he's been thinking about. And this is one thing I actually think ended up being a blessing in disguise for us because, after the last election, and I won't get into that whole thing on your show today because I don't think we have enough time for it. But I think not only did Americans get to see just a lot of the, how out of control the Democrat Party and how weak the Republican Party was, but it gave President Trump 4 years to think about what he would do differently and who he would surround himself with if he ever got a second chance. And I think that we're seeing that now. And I think because he has better people around him, who are loyal and, actually, have been with him and been with this America First movement from the get-go, I think you're going to see a lot more progress. And I think you're going to continue to see the shock and awe, it's a beautiful tactic. It's a beautiful tactic in warfare at the right time. And it's a beautiful tactic in politics when your opposition is on the back foot and they're disoriented. And that's where the Democrats are right now. We'll see what's going to happen. I don't become too big of a cheerleader because I know the challenges we face. I know the people up here, and it's still a den of vipers. So, we'll see. But I am rooting for the president, and more importantly, I'm rooting for this country. And I don't think at this time we could have a better leader than we do.
Oh, I agree.
I agree too. One of the biggest challenges I think you probably have is how do you convince these people that just hate Trump for Trump and they're going to vote against anything he does because they don't like him? How do you get them to open their eyes and see, it's just like you were saying earlier. I mean, some of the politicians right now, they were ragging him for the tariffs, but said, "Oh, we're not going to be able to have beer. We're not going to be able to have avocados and all this other stuff." And then 4 hours later, Mexico caves in and does what Trump asked them to do. Are these represented? Are these people going to give him a chance?
Well, I've definitely seen a shift in between his first presidency and his second presidency. People, all over Washington, D.C. understand the national and pretty historic mandate that the president just got by not only winning the Electoral College, but also the national vote. And let's keep in mind that was after the Democrats tried to impeach him, bankrupt him, destroy his family, throw him in jail for over 700 years. And then there were multiple attempts of assassination. So this isn't your normal political story. And people realize that there is a new sheriff in town, if you will, who uses the bully pulpit better than anybody probably in political history. And
Yeah.
so, because of that, there are a lot more people, and there are still detractors. There are people that, hate his guts. There are people that will vote against everything that he puts forward. But, there is a sense of understanding about what just happened. And there's also a sense of caution, I think, not only to cross the president, but also to cross this administration and the campaign and the promises that he made to the American people that the American people want delivered, and that's why they delivered this historic win for him. So, that all plays into it, and I think it will help us in trying to execute as much of President Trump's agenda as we can.
And I think that the people that are going to buck are going to be going against America itself.
Yeah, it seems that way. I want to ask, with the confirmation hearings, we've landed the plane on Pete Hegseth, where today, as we're sitting here, I think we're landing the plane on what's going to happen with RFK Jr. We still need to know about Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard. Just kind of unpack your thoughts about those particular candidates. And I'll lead with, I have two cautions with Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard, and it is their stance on warrantless searches. And I think Tulsi kind of wiggled her way a little bit verbally through the questions, but I believe that Kash Patel said he thinks that's an important tool for the FBI to be able to have warrantless searches. And I'm like, that just tramples the Fourth Amendment in due process. And I'm uncomfortable with that one thing. Everything else he's done and said, I'm like, he's solid. What do we do when we have these places where they're almost perfect, but they're not?
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with you, Cheryl. We had a pretty big fight up here in Capitol Hill just this last year. I believe it was our colleague from Arizona, Andy Biggs, who was leading the charge on
Thank goodness.
reforming FISA and making sure that if Americans did get caught up in a search because they were talking to somebody overseas, and that individual was suspected of terrorism or connection with terrorism, that American who was communicating with those individuals couldn't be searched and without a warrant. And that's what we're really fighting for, is that when an American gets caught up in something like that, that the intelligence agencies just can't start searching them, their social media, emails, phone calls, text messages, etc., without getting a warrant. Right. And so I know that one of the big criticisms against Tulsi originally that when she was in Congress, she fought for that type of reformation as well. And I can't tell you I followed the hearings close enough to, give you a definitive answer on that. Some of it may be her just trying to get through, the process. It's the FISA, the FISA process isn't what most of us have an issue with, because we do want to be able to surveil opposition and, foreign actors that we feel are a threat to our national security and to Americans. Our real issue with it is if Americans get caught up in those searches because of communications with said foreign actors, the intelligence communities shouldn't and can't spy on them without a warrant, going back to what you talked about in their constitutional God-given rights. And so, I think that, I think that there's a lot of gamesmanship going on right now, but I do have faith in both, Tulsi and in Cash. And one of the things that I like about Tulsi, even though, she is a former Democrat herself, and if I was up in Congress when she was here, I'd probably disagree with her on many things. But one thing that is an eye opener for a lot of people we have to keep in mind is after she started going after Kamala Harris, Homeland Security put her on a watch list,
list.
right? I can't remember the name of it, but when you actually are the recipient or the victim of an overreaching federal government, it has a way of changing you, right? Then it's no longer happening to somebody else.
Yeah.
It's not a constituent calling you and saying, "Hey, I'm being oppressed by the federal government." It's you.
Yeah.
It's you. And so that's one thing that I like about many of the people that President Trump has appointed. Like Pete Hegseth was another great example. Pete wasn't able to go serve with his National Guard unit here in DC because he had a cross, and it was viewed as a white supremacist tattoo or something like that. And so when you have people that have found themselves on the wrong side of this overreaching, out of control government, it does have a way of changing you. And so I don't have a crystal ball, guys. I can't tell you how this is going to play out, but I do support both of those individuals, and I hope the president gets to take the field with the people that he wants on the field with him.
Yeah, I think that's a great assessment, very thorough. And your point about Pete Hegseth and his cross, and it's like when we say terrorists, like, a lot of us have an idea of what we're talking about as a terrorist, but somehow, some way, over the past 4 years, I'm white, I'm Christian, I'm conservative, I adhere to patriotism. Somehow those words and the symbols related to them have made their way onto some list that would paint me as the terrorist, that I should have my whole world surveilled without a warrant. And so, like you're saying, when it hits home, that's, I think, when we reorder and we rethink about how invasive the government can be, and how much we want to support that. So I am like you, hopeful that these are probably the right candidates, but I also think that we can't just sit back and check our values at the door. We have to.
100%, Cheryl, and I think you're wise. I think you're wise to be willing to be critical, right? I mean, when you get to this spot where you idolize anybody and you just get on the team for being on the team's sake, and you lose any sense of objectivity, I think that becomes a problem. So I think that you're wise, to have criticisms, and to be cautious and to watch what people say, for sure. And
Thank you.
so I do think that that's wise, and I'm sure many Americans are in the same boat.
Appreciate that.
Well, I'm kind of a little bit the opposite, I guess. I'm probably going to make a fool out of myself. But,
Dive
you
in.
know,
Let's
the
go.
American people voted for Trump,
Yeah.
majority,
Yeah.
and he was elected.
Yeah.
And let him have his tools
Yeah.
to do what he says he's going to do.
Yeah.
Let let him prove himself wrong. Let him have the people he needs to get in there. The ones that he thinks are the ones that need to be there to help him.
Well, we'll find out how it
Oh,
goes for sure.
listen, I mean, this is a good conversation. I mean,
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago, we voted on the speaker, right? I've been, critical of Mike Johnson, our speaker.
Mm-hmm.
I have many reasons to be critical of Mike Johnson, but
Mm-hmm.
because the president came in and said, "This is the guy I want. This is my guy," and I voiced some of those concerns.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I said, "Okay, Mr. President, this is the guy you want. I'm going to do what I can to let you take the field with the team you want, and I don't want to stall your efforts and your agenda." And there were some other things, some other timelines that went along with the way Congress works and the way the system works, and getting Mike Johnson in so that the president could be sworn in on the following Monday, and
Yeah.
all of that. There were a bunch of things going on there, but there is a certain amount of trust that many of us up here, because we've seen the president deliver on many of the promises that he's made the American people. There is a certain amount of leeway that we're trying to give him, even when we might not agree with, the individual. So Cheryl, I think I think your skepticism or your caution, I think it's wise. But to that point, many of us find ourselves in that boat consistently. And I will say this, it's kind of a disclaimer. As a man, I like Mike Johnson a lot. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
Yeah.
But this isn't a popularity contest for me.
Exactly.
This isn't about who I want to be my neighbor, who I would leave my wife and kids with. This is about, hey man, are you going to be the guy that leads this, backwards, body in the right direction, so that we can start to turn this ship around and make Americans' lives better, and start to undo much of the damage and the fiscal irresponsibility of this body, which is our primary responsibility up here. The purse in Congress, it's a big thing, and the money that comes out of here is you hear it all the time: follow the money, follow the money. There is so much fraud, waste, and abuse up here, and there's very little desire to change it. Matter of fact, one of the things that's blown up right now in the media is USAID, as Elon gets in there, and he's looking at where's all this money going. And this was an organization that myself, my colleague and friend from Florida, Matt Gaetz, well, he used to be my colleague. We tried to defund USAID last Congress by 50%, just because of some of the stuff that they were doing overseas. And I have a list right here with me of, just some of the most egregious things they were doing overseas, like $1.5 million to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business communities, $700,000 for production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. This is your money. This is the American people's tax money that we are sending overseas for nonsense like this. And they have, like, I think, a $40 billion budget, guys. And I just read you a couple things. And guess how many Republicans voted for my amendment? Only 102. We didn't even get half of the Republicans to vote for that amendment. Have stripped USAID's budget by 50%, long before, it started popping up in the headlines like it is today. And so it's what we deal with on a daily basis up here. We'll keep fighting. But it's gonna be a knockdown, drag out.
So you only got 100 votes with all that information that you just said, and they knew that, and they still
and more. I just ran you guys a couple lines. And it's
craziness.
It's sad, because a lot of people, it's like the origin of COVID. It takes a long time for a lot of these folks to realize what's actually going on. A lot of these folks up here still thinks USAID is just building wells, in Nigeria or whatever project they're doing. They don't realize, and they're almost willfully blind to some of the abuses, that USAID and other agencies, have used American taxpayer dollars for, and just spreading some of this nonsense woke propaganda, all over the world. And so, there's multiple aspects to it, but some of us, realize exactly what some of these agencies have become and why they need to be reined in.
Can Trump or Musk close that down?
That's what they're talking about.
Or does it need Congress to do it?
Well, they're working on it right now. And I plan on running this amendment. I know Chip Roy has a bill that would defund USAID completely. So there will be another swing at this, another effort to rein these guys in. And I think the president has already I think relieved many of the higher echelon folks within USAID. And I think many of their employees have been locked out of the building, while Eli and some of his team actually follow the money and see where it's actually going. So
that is awesome.
Yeah, there are efforts underway to rein that agency back in, as many other agencies. I mean, you guys have probably heard about how many people have, been terminated, from the FBI and other organizations. So it's going to take time, but this is once again why I'm so glad that the American people that watch your show showed up on election day or the weeks prior and actually, stepped up to give us a leader who, has the will and the courage to actually, not just make campaign promises like all politicians do, but actually follow through on them.
Oh, amen to that.
Well,
sorry.
I'm sorry. I have one more question. Congressman Crane, Representative Crane, I'm sorry. Is that list available to the public that you have?
Yeah, you guys can go, Google this. Matt, do you know where we got this specific list from? And yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly. My team assembled this list for me. I don't have the exact links, but I know if Caroline Leavitt, who's the president's press secretary, has been talking about a lot of this stuff, and you guys can go look at her speeches. You guys can go. I'm sure there's a ton. Michael Benz, BENZ. He's on the War Room all the time. He's been tracking a lot of this stuff. I mean, these guys were funding, coronavirus in the Wuhan lab. I mean, there's so many things that these guys have been, here, let me go down the list a little bit more. Hundreds of millions of dollars to fund irrigation canals, farming equipment, and fertilizer to support the unprecedented poppy cultivation and heroin production in Afghanistan. We've been funding that, right, through USAID.
Heroin.
And
okay.
Yeah, and it goes on and on and on, and many will tell you that it's a cutout for the CIA, right? When the CIA wants to go into a place, start up an AIDS treatment center or whatever, have some of their agents working in there so that they can start to cultivate a revolution. Oftentimes it's USAID that will go in and create that front for them. And so we can have an argument about whether or not we should be spending our country's tax dollars on stuff like that. But some of the more egregious things that I read you guys, like the spreading of the woke propaganda around the world, when we by the way, are close to $37 trillion in debt and have a $2 trillion annual deficit, meaning every year we spend $2 trillion, a minimum of $2 trillion more than we actually bring in taxes. It doesn't take a genius to see where this is going. This house of cards is going to collapse at some point, and I don't want to sit here and be the guy saying, I told you so, I told you so. I want to be the guy that's trying to stop it. And that's what many of us are trying to do.
Well, I think because you have been a business person, we're business people. President Trump is a business person. Eli Crane is a business person. I think we observe these things differently. We understand that, there's only so many dollars. We have to stay within budget, or we have to reduce the outgo or increase the income. And even looking at these nominees for the confirmation hearings, we look at them as, would we hire this person to do this job? Are they capable? Like, I just think we look at these things differently than maybe the average politician or somebody who hasn't done hiring and firing and,
She's pretty.
budgets. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's pretty. He's nice. They should get the job. So I'm thankful that we have these kinds of people and these kinds of conversations. I do have one more question. I know you're probably running tight on time, but there is something going on there in Washington called the Reconciliation Strategy Debate. There's a one bill versus a two bill. Now, busy Americans who are focused on strategizing their own household, right? And getting their kids to soccer. Maybe we're not following this. And I was one of them until this idea came across as a question that we could talk about. Could you unpack that and help us understand what this is all about, and why should we care which way this goes?
Yeah. So, this is something I had to learn about over the last couple of years as a freshman member of Congress, but basically budget reconciliation, it's basically a kind of a special process that allows us to make changes and pass legislation up here, usually once a year. The thing is that the cool thing about it is that it allows us to bypass the filibuster or the 60 votes in the Senate. Okay. Not the filibuster. What's that? I'm sorry. So the 60 votes in the Senate, that Senate, that's the real key. So we only have like 53 Republican seats in the Senate. So we're not going to pass a lot of Trump's agenda through the Senate, but through budget reconciliation, if we get a simple majority in the House, a simple majority in the Senate, we can pass a lot of Trump's agenda. And so the argument up here right now is one bill or two bills. And the whole thing, many of us are pushing for two bills. The biggest reason I'm pushing for two bills is because if we do one bill, it's not going to happen until probably minimal time frame of this summer. Okay. And so I think about, again, we talked about border security earlier on in the show. If we don't get Tom Homan, the border czar, the money that he needs to the border and to carry out these massive deportations until summertime, you have to ask yourself, okay, how many more Americans are going to be set on fire, raped, murdered, pushed onto train tracks, et cetera, right? And the other thing you got to think about too is if we wait until summer, you got to always be thinking about what your opposition is up to. We're already seeing it start, this propaganda effort by the mainstream media to destroy President Trump's deportation efforts, a campaign promise that he made to the American people. And what they're doing is they're going to, sit outside of, federal agencies like ICE, and then they're going to send their reporters out to follow these guys around as they're making these, arrests and deportations. And all it's going to take is a couple, mainstream media reporters, capturing a family, being put in a van and, some, little 6-year-old girl, from Honduras or wherever, crying and, hugging with her teddy bear. And many of these weak Republicans up here are going to fold like a cheap suit. And if you have 4, 5, 6, 7 months to, continually roll that footage, what we get in the big, beautiful bill, I think is going to be really weak and watered down. So if we separate these things up, which by law we can do, and we do the border, deportation money, Homeland Security money for Tom Homan first, along with a couple other things in there, I think it will really help us execute on the president's agenda and not have some watered down, half-baked border security package in there.
And is this something, the 1 or 2 bill, is this something that we, the constituents, should be reaching out to our legislators and saying, here's our opinion about it? Or is this really kind of like backroom stuff that you guys?
Absolutely. Along with the appointments like with RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, I think that, there's a couple things that I personally would love to see constituents calling their representatives, their senators on, and advocating for this 2 bill process. And there's a great tool you guys can use out there. It's called Bill Blaster. It's an app that you can use on your phone. It's Bill Blaster. Not only can you get the direct lines to your representatives, and your senators, but you can also get our social medias as well. And that's why I love this app. So if you're at all savvy on your phone and you've got other apps on your phone, get Bill Blaster, reach out to your representatives. And if you hear about representatives, like there's a couple right now who are questionable, on Tulsi and RFK Jr., you can reach out to them as well and let them know, that you support the president's choices.
Oh, I love that. There's an app for that. Who knew? All right. Well, I know you've got to get back to it. Thank you so much for all the time you've given us. Tell folks how they can follow the work you're doing, because I mean, you do important work on the floor all the time. I see on your social media, and it gives me hope to see you in action. And I think it would other people as well. So tell folks how they can follow you.
Rep Eli Crane, that's my official account. And then Eli Crane CEO is, my personal. So if people want to go follow me, that'd be great. But either way, thank you guys so much again for helping the president, take back office again. Thank you so much for helping us keep control of the House and the Senate. It's a really big deal. I know there's so many, better things that, you could do with your life, more entertaining things, but I'm just grateful that the American people realized where this thing was headed, how much trouble we were in, and actually, turned out to make sure that their voices were heard, and we can, hopefully get some amazing things done for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And God bless you and your work and your family. And we will see you on March 22nd, 2025 at Scottsdale Gun Club at the America's Mighty Warriors event.
Thank you, guys. God bless you.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Well, a lot of people listen to our show, and I know that Tom Holloman's listening to our show. Holman, he's listening to our show right now. And I just want to remind him, just let him kind of put this in his ear, that Phil Murphy said that he has somebody who is illegal.
Who's Phil Murphy?
He's the governor of New Jersey.
Okay, you always have to say Phil Murphy, governor of New Jersey.
With all the things that he's done, figure everybody know who he is.
They don't, though.
I mean, my 5-year-old niece, grandkid knows who he is. Anyway,
she sneers every time she hears his name.
He said on public TV that he has somebody who is illegal in their house. He didn't say they were illegal. Said somebody who is illegal in their house. So just a thing, if somebody wants to drop by his house and say hi and see what's going on, I mean, it's kind of doing a job,
Yeah. I mean, he admitted it, so I could see how he might get a little, at least a knock and talk, right?
And just to remind everybody, New Jersey has terrible gun laws. And also that he said the Constitution is above his pay grade on TV. He said that. Now, we're talking about a governor. Right? Anyway.
It's one of your favorite people. It's like when we mentioned the governor of California to our daughter.
No, you can't. You can't mention it to her. She goes into rage. And oh my gosh.
Yeah. All right. Well,
is he still the governor after all this stuff?
Yeah. Well, what's funny to me is I feel like he is a twin to Trudeau in Canada.
Yeah,
and Trudeau just resigned. So I keep thinking, right? They're like twinsies. The way they talk, the way they look, anyway.
The way they run their country.
Yeah. And so then I keep going, oh, no, he didn't quit. It was Trudeau. Anyway. All right. Well, I want to do a quick shout out to some awesome organizations who support the work that we are doing. attorneysonretainer.us/GFR. Check them out. You don't ever want to have to be in a self-defense situation where you are using your firearm, a knife, a toaster, a rock. But if you do find yourself having to defend your life, you know the legal aspect is going to come. So prepare for that before that possible eventuality, and get an attorney on retainer. We are clients of theirs. They are awesome people. They are part of the Attorneys for Freedom group, attorneysonretainer.us/GFR. We get a little tiny piece of that and lets them know that you heard about them from us. All right. Another thing is, as it's warming up outside, it is only February, but holy cow, it's already getting warm here in Arizona. When you get out on the range, you want to have a good firm grip on your firearm for your accuracy and safety. And this product, LockedInGrip.com, is a liquid shooting sports chalk. It is a great product made by good friends of ours for safer, faster shooting. LockedInGrip.com. Don't need the /GFR on that one. Just buy a lot for you and your friends. And if you like buying American products that support American jobs on American soil, you are going to want to take us up on this invitation-only shopping network called patriothousehold.com/GFR for Gun Freedom Radio. Everything that you're buying at the big box stores, all the money you're spending with them, those box stores use that money to actually come against our values and our freedoms, where patriothousehold.com/GFR uses every dollar to support what you believe in, including the work that we do here at Gun Freedom Radio. So please check them out. You can order your shampoo, your snacks, even steaks and ground beef. Amazing products. Everything we bought has been highest of quality. You can set your order and forget it like I do in my busy life, or you can shop as you need it. It shows up on your front doorstep. Could not be more convenient. patriothousehold.com
You know the cool
/GFR.
I'm sorry, but you know the cool thing about that? It's all American stuff, no tariff.
No tariffs. That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. And thank you so much to our Representative Eli Crane. We value him so much, and thank you so much for all the time that you gave us, Representative Crane. Thank you to our amazing listeners all over the world. Wherever there is internet, we have people who are hungry for this content and want to share it with their friends. You could be anywhere doing anything, and when you spend time on our site and listening to and watching our shows, that is so valuable to us. So thank you for that. If you want to go back and watch this video or any of our videos, go to YouTube, GunStreamer, or the OPSLAN smartphone app. When you get to those sites, please click the subscribe and the notification button. Not only does that keep you up to date as soon as we put out a new episode, but it tells those platforms that this is valuable content. So please do those things. We would very much appreciate it. And if you want to listen to the audio only version, maybe you're out for a long bike ride or, out for a Sunday drive, then go to our website, gunfreedomradio.com, click the on-demand tab, and
binge listen to your heart's content. Done.
And if you want to see photos and bios and links to all the work that all of our guests have, then go to the guest tab. Under Representative Crane's tab, you'll find the link to the America's Mighty Warriors event, and also all of his social medias. So it's a huge database of subject matter experts that is ever growing, and we are so blessed to have had every one of those guests on. And when you spend time there, we don't hate that at all. All right, until next time, we are going to
pray for our nation.
We are going to
pray for our leaders.
What about the ones we don't like too much, like Phil Murphy and that guy in California? Silence. Maybe especially for them. Maybe we'll pray especially for them. All right. Until next time, be good to each other. Have a great week, and God bless.
And remember to question what you hear.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Even on here, right?
Everything.
I love it. All right, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.